like,
Yeah, just waiting
yeah,
on Paul.
just waiting on Paul.
Okay.
Cool.
I think we're gonna go
ahead. I think it's 4 o'clock and everybody's here. We're waiting on one other town board member, but I think we're gonna go ahead and get started with our town board work session for April 6th at our 4 o'clock hour, which is our new time that we have chosen to meet while we are going through our virtual cycle here. So goal of the town work session is to have the town board receive information. Tonight we're going to be getting updates from several departments at the town about how things are going and what they are currently working on in light of everything else that's going on and around us right now. So members of the public in attendance are asked to be recognized. So we do have our representative here from the town, Jessica Humphreys, who's going to be monitoring and watching for those of you who might be coming on. And for those of you who have questions or comments, make sure you signify through her by, what do they do, raise their hand?
the raise hand function.
Use the raise hand function, and she'll let me know that somebody has a question or wants to make a comment. We'll give the department heads time to kind of give us an update, and then we'll pause for a minute, see if anybody has questions or comments after that. But in the public, if you've got anything that you wanted to ask, then is there a function they can ask the question direct?
Through the Q&A app?
Use the Q&A app for questions that might come directly to Jess on that too. And with that, we're going to get started with the town board work session. Having COVID-19 departmental updates. And the first one we're going to hear from this afternoon is Administrative Services.
Thank you, Mayor and Town Board. Jess Humphreys, Administrative Services. Administrative Services Department is working 97% remotely at this time. We do have a few folks that do come into Town Hall or maybe over to their respective offices to help support the entire town in this time. Customer service right now has about 2 people rotating in and out from Town Hall. Their goal is to continue to process those check payments that we receive for utility billing, court, support sales tax, elections at this time as well, helping our clerk, and making sure that those items are getting done. They do answer the phone calls and help out with our hotline. Our clerk's department is all remote at this time, although we do see our town clerk a little more often this last week due to elections and making sure she's processing those. HR is all remote as well. Their main focus with COVID-19 is tracking any employee exposures and assisting that as possible. IT's focus remains on support to our remote workers, which was a yeoman's work to get everybody out there and taken care of remotely. They continue to monitor that and support that and our security for our network. They do have one person coming in weekly on call to make sure that they're there to help support hardware needs. And last but not least, communications. They are all working remotely as well, and their focus is to maintain our messaging through the website, social media, and any other needs during this time.
Okay. Are there any questions for Jessica with Administrative Services?
Shane has a question or a comment?
Comment, Shane?
Thank you. I just wanted to add so the board understands that, and sorry about the sunlight, it is
killing me right now. We do have quite a few employees that aren't necessarily, don't necessarily have COVID-19, but here maybe they're exposed, maybe a spouse was exposed, maybe they were, went to church service a week or 2 ago, and somebody they went to church with
were exposed. So HR has done a really good job of kind of tracking those folks and, making sure that they're going to do the self-quarantine, self-isolation. I just bring this up because even if the governor miraculously said tomorrow, hey, look, stay at home is removed, you can all go back to work. Right now, the town wouldn't really be at full staff. So we're working through that. And I think under any kind of normal cadence, we're going to be fine. But if we do have, some kind of weird spring 2 foot of snow event, I will tell you that I think we are going to challenge with that kind of thing because we do have enough staff that are basically told not to come to work right now. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure you guys understood that. It may not impact us at all, but it could.
Okay, thank you.
Questions or comments? Is there at some point we might get then an actual number or update so we are aware like how many of our folks internally that means, you know what, I mean by percentage or something? So we know, I mean, if it's a grave number, if we need to be thinking or looking at some kind of alternative options?
Right, yeah, I think we could, I am a little bit concerned
With
with
HIPAA and everything else, I don't know how much we want to mess around with that information. I'll tell you, from department staff, I mean, we're meeting quite a bit, and we are talking about those scenarios, Mayor, and everybody. If we did have a big snowstorm, or the people that we could bring in that we just need to isolate that aren't really sick that could work. I think we are talking about those scenarios. So if the board would like, and we don't have any HIPAA concerns, I'll talk to HR about that. I think we could break out by department just how many folks are kind of set aside right now. And I think we could probably do that as an aggregate number. Questions with that?
I don't think it's important to pinpoint exactly, as long as we know, we don't have 50% of our staff under
Or something
quarantine
like
or
that.
like that.
Just in general.
Oh yeah, right. No,
Yeah.
it's not that many, Mayor.
It's more just along the lines, like I said, if we had a huge snowstorm and
Okay.
really needed a all hands
Gotcha.
on deck kind of event, we don't have all
Okay,
hands
to
on deck.
get to that. The good part of that, or a little bit of the silver lining, is there's not near as much traffic on the street right now. So the urgency of getting everything cleared, we may have that little extra time and that little extra grace just based on that. But no, it's not close to 50%. And I think
Okay.
he's doing what we're supposed to do and isolating and flattening the curve. We shouldn't hit that, right? So, we are trying to, I think, through daily practices, through personal protective equipment where it's warranted, in other, I think, just common sense applications where we're trying to keep people healthy if they're here working.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for administrative services before we move on?
I'm seeing none.
Okay, we're gonna move then to public services.
Good evening, Eric.
Public Services Director. I'll break out into two different departments. I'll start with Parks, Rec, and Culture first. Know that both departments are meeting, the leadership team meets weekly, if not more frequently. And we're also working on doing some virtual lunches with both different teams this week so they can answer questions and thank the employees for the hard work that they're doing. Start with the Recreation Center. Obviously, it's closed. We do have several key functions that are still operating there. 5 days a week, we have 6 or 7 employees coming in around 10:30, 11 o'clock to pass out senior lunches. So we get the lunch in, and then we are transferring it to-go boxes. Excuse me. We've been doing this for the past 3 weeks. This is the 4th week. Today we did 107 meals, which is the most meals we've done of any day of the past 3 weeks. The 3-week total so far is 470 meals, so it's been very successful. It's interesting to look back and see the first day was 40, and then today we hit 107 3 weeks later. The rec center has been focused a lot on, we've transferred phone lines from the rec center to people's cell phones, so they're working at home, taking calls, providing refunds for canceled sports and programs that we've had to incur in the last 3 weeks. Staff is working with fitness attendants and other staff to in the communications team to post fitness activities and live videos of like yoga classes, those kind of things on the web so that people can work out at home and not at the rec center. We are currently working on summer programs, updating policies and procedures, editing the digital version of the activity guide so that as we begin to see a kind of a coming to a close, hopefully the COVID-19 that we think we're going to be able to reopen, we'll then publish a modified version of the activity guide so people can sign up for things in the summer. Then And facilities team is continuing to clean and help out at Town Hall, PD, and here at the Public Services campus, because that team, as you'll hear, is a little low in numbers. On the culture side, we're still focused on policies and procedures, as well as getting the public art plan ready to go in terms of having some procedures in place. We've already had one HOA, Metro District, up on top of the hill reach out to us about putting some public art in the roundabout there at New Liberty and County Road 13. And we're still doing inventory and preparing for the move for the Art and Heritage, the collections for all of our artifacts over. And this week we hit 20,000 artifacts that we have counted. So we have a larger collection than we thought already in place. Parks, Trails, and Open Space. So that crew was at a modified kind of 50% home one day, 50% here. Wednesday, we went back to full crew working, but staggered hours. So for example, half the crew comes in at 6:30 in the morning, the other half comes in at 7, so that they're never in the office, never in the same place at one time. So there's still a split crew, but working. And the reason behind that is if you haven't yet, you'll be soon mowing your own lawn. Grass is growing. We need fertilizer to get down, aeration, those kind of things, get the parks ready for summer, as well as we're still cleaning playgrounds, picking up a lot of trash, doing trash along the trails more frequently. As you saw in the last report, our numbers of people that are frequenting the parks are really high. So there's a lot of focus there. And then forestry is actually taking advantage of the lack of traffic to do some trimming work of trees that normally they don't get to in the spring. And they tend to do that in the fall. So they're actually be a little more proactive and get some of that stuff done now. And then on a positive note, the Kiger Trail this week should get concrete poured. You saw that in your note on Friday, but I think it's important to note that that project is probably about 85% done, and we hope to be able to open that trail to the public sometime in May. So any questions on the Parks, Rec, and Culture side?
Can you just verify it's 107?
That was just today, or that's what we're doing now on a daily basis, or it was just today?
That was 107 meals today. Last Friday was 104, and we're 470 through the first 3 weeks.
Okay.
That trend seems to be continuing to go up.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody have any other questions or comments for Eric on this portion? We're not seeing anything?
No.
So move ahead, Eric, if you have part 2.
Sure.
Okay, on Public Works, sewer treatment plant, this team never really reduced their workforce. It's a small team of 3. They're able to social distance in place, and obviously a very critical function of the town. Interesting fact I learned today from Dennis Markham, our normal flow is 1.7 million gallons a day. Over the weekend, it jumped to 1.9. That's a pretty significant flow increase just over the weekend. So obviously a lot of people are staying home and flushing their toilets. Just as a reminder, the sewer treatment plant capacity is rated at 2.8 MGD. On the water and sewer side, that team, like the rest of Public Works, was decreased to 50-50. But effective today, just like we did in Parks, we brought them back full speed ahead in terms of staffing, but staggered hours as well. So again, some people coming in at 6:30, some people coming in at 7, never in the office at the same time. The effort here is the temperatures begin to warming, and so they can begin to do things like camera our sewer lines, do valve exercising programs, those kind of things. So they're back to somewhat normal with the impact of just social distancing and lots of extra cleaning of trucks getting in and out, that kind of thing. On the street side, they're doing the exact same thing as the utilities and parks, so they're back effective today. Full team, lots and lots of asphalt patching going down right now for potholes that we've seen up over the winter. And then they've been handling snow, and like Shane said, if we get a big snow, we'll probably struggle a little bit, but the good side that we've seen with the last couple of snows is there's not a lot of road traffic, which makes it much easier for that team and others that help out. The other thing that's interesting, you know, on a normal week, we bring in our crew about 5:30 to get into the street sweeper and sweep downtown, because typically there's a ton of traffic, lots of cars parked at the businesses. Because there aren't cars parked in the businesses, we've been able to sweep during the day and get some areas that are more difficult to put the street sweeper in on a typical basis. So that's been a little bit of an ease for staff. So we're doing a lot of street sweeping as well right now. On the fleet, that team has basically remained the same. They are keeping all of the fleet, police cars, parks, all the utility vehicles going. Walked out there this afternoon and they're getting all the lawnmowers ready, because I expect to be mowing grass, if not the end of the week, the first of next for sure. And then the facilities team, they're at less than 50%. We've got some folks out on that side, but they continue to help clean PD and town hall, and then they're being assisted by the CRC staff. So that's it for Public Works. Be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments, Jess?
Dr. Jones, do you have a question or comment?
Yes, Eric, we have a hold on water shutoffs for now, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else?
I'm seeing none.
Okay, we're going to move on then to community development.
Good afternoon. This is John Thornhill, Community Development Director. All of planning and engineering employees are currently working remotely, with the exception of just a few occasions where staff might have to go in to move some legacy paperwork through, building permits that happened before we made the change to going online with our building permits. Staff is continuing to look for ways to handle doing work remotely and maintain or improve our service level to our customers. One of the examples of that, we recently started moving new single family permits through the system online and have them returned from SafeBelt and ready to issue those permits in only 4 working days compared to the normal 7-day turnaround. So we're starting to see some success in going digital with our permit system. New home permits have remained fairly steady in the past 2 weeks. 31 new permits were issued in March of 2020 compared to 45 in March of 2019. We had 140 total building permits issued in March of 2020. The Planning Commission held their first Zoom meeting with remote voting on Wednesday, and by all accounts, it went very, very smoothly. So that went well. Staff for planning continues to work from home, processing development reviews, building permits, and attending virtual meetings with all of our applicants and other staff. On the engineering side, engineering staff continues to meet the needs of the developers, contractors, partner agencies, and consultants. We're still reviewing land development application, doing plot plan reviews. We've put those all online with the approval process as well, so that's saving some time. We're processing right-of-way permits and also continuing to perform our infrastructure inspections. The MS4 program is still moving forward. We're still performing regularly scheduled inspections for that program. And then staff also hosted its first virtual online bid opening as well for the Great Western Trail Authority project, and that went very well as well. Also, the roadway seal project was put out to bid on March 30th, so that's moving forward. And then finally, on the water resources side, the last NIST meeting, which was supposed to be today, was canceled. So we did call Northern Water to see how the project was affected by the COVID-19. And they say that the project's still moving forward, and they still expect a record of decision sometime this summer, but it could be delayed if the Army Corps is called up to have to build and mobilize hospitals in Colorado, especially if the Denver branch is called up. So that could delay the project a little bit and that record of decision. Also, Larimer County has extended the 1041 permit for another 60 days, so we might not even get a hearing on that until August. but it is still possible that the record of decision will come in before that. And that is all I had for community development.
Any questions or comments for John?
David Sosowski, you have a comment or question?
Yeah, I do. It really, thinking about that MS4, John, just because I remember a while ago, we were pretty inundated, and I think we outsourced some of the inspection work to Safe Built. Are we still at the volumes where that makes sense?
We still are, and all those permits are still coming in. So Safe Built is performing those inspections. So right now we haven't seen a big enough dip to really take that off of Janine's or put it back onto Janine's plate for all those single family homes.
Okay. Guess we'll have to keep an eye on that.
Yep, we're still monitoring it.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody have any other questions or comments? Anything else?
I'm seeing none.
Okay, we'll move on to finance. Dean?
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Things in finance are rolling along. We all are able to work remotely. Cheryl has been going into the office. The reason being the auditors have been working remotely and they request paperwork, and she is there to make copies and send it over to them. You would think that maybe that working remotely would be a little easier, but actually it's a little more cumbersome. The reason being we have to now scan it and then send it over to them rather than just hand them the paper. But the good news is we're about finished with that, and we will have them start working on the report. Deb and Penny, they are in sales tax and business licensing. They come in they trade shifts and come in every other day. The reason for that being they need to access paperwork as well. But that's working out pretty well. We have one change that we have made is that we started doing accounts payable checks every other week. We used to do them every week just because of the volume. We decided to do that every other week now and do accounts payable checks on the weeks that we do not do payroll checks. Megan handles the payroll. She has been working remotely from home for quite a while now. She has 2 young children, and we just plain made her go home. We have not missed any of the payroll. We still do that every 2 weeks, as you are aware. So that is going okay. Carl is still working from home, and he has made the adjustments to the budget as we spoke about. I think it was last week. I don't know. It seems so long anymore, but he's working on that. Being that, I think I mentioned in my report on Friday that we are at the end of March. Of course, you know that, but that's the end of the first quarter. I will be interested to know how the sales tax numbers came out. Deb is finalizing those for me. She and Carl and I are going to meet on Wednesday, and we should have some news for you later in the week. I will be actually kind of more interested, as I said in my report, to see how the April numbers come out. But, it'll be good to know the March numbers as well. One thing, last week I sat in on a FEMA webinar about guidelines to what FEMA is going to want us to submit if and when we apply for any aid from them. Fortunately, we have done this before with the tornado, and not so much with that flood, but we did do some of it there. And, we've done this before. We have a system in place, and we're starting to gather that information. What I found it just struck me this morning was I found interesting is they told us what they needed, but they did not tell us what money was available. So I keep an ear open for that and see where that goes. So that is everything that I have. I'll answer any questions if you have them.
Okay, you see any questions or comments, Jess?
David has a question or comment?
Yeah, hey, Dean, you're referencing that FEMA support, and I think you guys sent us, or we got today maybe a CML update on relief bill number 4 that might include additional support for municipalities. Dean, when you're talking about applying for assistance from FEMA, is that under an existing program, or is this something you're speculating will come up in the next relief bill, if you will?
Right now, I would say that I would choose the latter that I'm speculating will come up. I had not seen that CML email from today, but I may be wrong. But I'm thinking something that may come up here in the future. And I will say from my own experience is when we had the tornado, the FEMA guys were here right away. And even through the tornado, we did not get any funding from them because, I mean, and using their words, you don't have enough damage, dollar-wise. So I'm uncertain. I mean, of course, that was, 12 years ago. So this time may be different. But as of now, I don't, like I said, I don't have anything where they said, hey, Windsor, do you want to apply for this kind of aid? So I will keep my ear to the ground on that and let you know what comes up.
Yeah, I think Dean.
Shane has a comment.
Oh, sorry. Just to
That's okay. Go ahead,
respond to that CML email was kind of their piece saying that they were joining with Cory Gardner and others asking for the next relief bill to include a bucket of money for municipalities.
Okay.
So you're right. It's just something to probably watch as that bill works its way through Congress.
Yes, thank you.
Shane, you had a comment or question?
Yeah, thank you. Just to add a little bit. So the current CARES Act does provide funding for municipalities, but it's you have to be at least 500,000 people or larger. And so obviously that leaves out the vast majority of Colorado and cities. So I think I forwarded the board a letter from our congressional delegation on Friday that was kind of imploring the federal government to consider smaller municipalities as well and to allow us to take advantage of that funding. So anyway, yeah, there's no current legislation, as Dean said. Right now, we're just tracking it because we don't know. At any point, the FEMA or the feds do have an act that qualifies the town. We want to make sure we've tracked it all. So it's certainly feasible that we do all the tracking and get to the end of this and there's no money there. I just think that's a better risk than not tracking it at all and having like a 5th round of congressional bill come through that we could have taken advantage of. But right now, there's nothing that would come to the town.
Yeah, and I think that's a good tack to take, as if, so that we are prepared. But I think that we should act as if we potentially will not receive anything.
Because that is more the likelihood, unfortunately. Or if it does come, it will take a while. It will take a long time to come through the process. You see anybody else?
No, ma'am.
Okay, economic development then. Stacy?
Thank you, Mayor. Stacy Miller, Director of Economic Development. Jill and I have been working remotely as well. I come in about once a week to check mail and handle anything that needs to be handled that I can't do electronically. Our main focus during this remains our existing industries, including our restaurants, salons, gyms, massage industry, as well as chiropractic industry. Those are the industries that were required and the most affected to shut down or stop, if not all of their efforts, the majority of them. So we've been focusing on having brainstorming sessions with each one of those industries specifically and Wednesday this week will be the chiropractic industry. So we've done that. Today, a business survey went out to all of the businesses in Windsor on our mailing list, just trying to gather information and see who's hurting, see what's going on, see how many people have been laid off, what they're doing, what their losses are, their financial losses are, and then we'll be reaching out to those companies as well to see how we can help. We've still been attending regional meetings. We have 3 a week for the Larimer County side, 1 a week for Weld County, and those are the economic development leaderships on both sides of the county. We've been communicating back with our fellow economic development partners and colleagues to make sure we can kind of understand what we're all doing and see if there's anything we can emulate in our own communities that would be successful. I am continuing to look for other opportunities in the state and other states as well for other programs and opportunities that are going on that people are being creative and coming up with. We've obviously been well aware of the federal opportunities in the most recent CARES Act platform. That has gone out on our website. And again, big shout out to communications because they've done a really great job, I think, of modifying the links as they change, as I've requested, as well as posting new information out about assistance for our local businesses. The last thing I'll mention is that in spite of all this stuff, we have had 2 new prospects that have come in and 1 new home-based business. So we are still seeing some business attraction going on as well, which is nice to see. So we've been responding to those prospect requests for new businesses who are interested in our area, as well as assisting a home-based business that I was working with last week who's coming in and filling out a business license and sales tax license. If he didn't do it last week, he should be doing it at the beginning of this week.
Great. Any questions or comments for Stacy? I just want to add that Stacy and I will be on
Wednesday. John Fogel with the Loveland Town Board and Kevin Lemasters with Johnstown are starting a NOCO business, kind of a listening session, much like what Stacy and myself and our town manager have done a couple of times with some of our local folks. But this is kind of going to be on a regional perspective to try to figure out or see if there is a voice or a common message that we all can kind of share. Again, find out what each other's doing in ways that we can either help one another or just ways that we can enhance what each other is already doing. Do you see anything else?
Ken, you have a question or comment?
Yes. How many of our qualified businesses have returned the application requesting sales tax deferment?
I'll defer to Shane since those emails go directly to him.
Yeah, I've only received 1 so far, Ken. So, but it came right out of the gate. I do think we probably need to push out an email to folks again, let them know, remind them. But I've only seen 1 so far.
And we
Thank you.
mailed all of those out a week ago. Filled them all out. And then I think Shane fielded some questions and I fielded some questions from some direct businesses. So I'm surprised that only 1 has responded, but I'll follow up with everybody.
Okay, anybody else?
Not at this time.
Okay, then let's move on to our town attorney, Ian McCarter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ian McCarter, Town Attorney, just like you said. The Town Attorney's Office is working pretty much at the same pace and same locations that everyone else is. I'm going in about once a week. Kim, I believe, is checking her mail once a week and picking up tickets for municipal court and dealing with that. I will say that much of her caseload right now, or her workload right now, is working with the municipal court to try to process the tickets, because the tickets are still being issued. It's just that court has been postponed. So in addition to granting continuances and facilitating that, Kim is working with the municipal court to try to work plea agreements in as many cases as she can. back to me, most of my emphasis these days is trying to stay abreast of the different orders and directives and interpretations that are floating around, mostly from CML, but also from the American Bar Association and the Colorado Bar Association. I have spent a fair amount of time with staff and with Shane working on policy development in response to the health emergency. And so as far as COVID-19 specific work, that's been my emphasis. And again, Kim is working primarily when it comes to COVID-19 with the municipal court. The balance of our workload is that Kim is spending a fair amount of time on subdivision agreements. She is working extensively with the planners and engineers. She is also working on this year's farm lease for the Bro donation parcel, which some of you may remember came to us several years ago from the Bro companies. And that property was being farmed by Dennis Betts and his family farming operation. So Kim every year, every spring, works with Dennis to arrive at an acceptable lease form for that property. That keeps that property active and also keeps it from becoming a weed issue. Kim is also working closely with the police department. My emphasis lately has been responding to staff inquiries on all kinds of things, some pedestrian and some unusual. I'm also working, trying to get a direct negotiation with the city of Thornton on their plans for a pipeline, as you know, and that pipeline is proposed to run through the property that we want to purchase for the water treatment plant. So we are working with the seller's lawyer and the city of Thornton on trying to make certain that those easement rights, if recorded before we acquire the property, will not affect our ability to build and operate a water treatment plant. I'm also working on the 4th Street repurchase under the Brinkman exclusive negotiation agreement. Some of you recall that we have worked out terms and we have made an acceptable offer. That closing is scheduled for Friday. I'm still working with the closing agent on making certain we have the funds in the title company's hands on Friday. So that's a project. The other is the Future Legends Sports Park, which I'm certain Shane will probably talk with you a bit more about. But really what I'm answering, the questions I'm answering have to do with other opportunities to secure financing, including what I expect will be a Metropolitan District Service Plan amendment to increase their mill levy cap. That request has been made informally. Now we're waiting on some more formalities. We hope to get that in front of you. It could be as early as April 27th if we can get all the paperwork and get our review done by then. And that would involve an ordinance to modify the service plan. I'm just checking my notes here. If any of you know a barber who has arms that are longer than 6 feet, please give me that referral because my hair is getting kind of long. But that's all I've got personally and professionally.
Hey, Ian, if you find a guy like that, can you refer him to me too, please?
Okay.
I'm getting a little woolly over here.
You're kind of shaggy.
Ian, I have a question about, or maybe this is a general consideration or
comment about the 4th Street. I've been hearing from several folks who, are interested in that property. What I have told them to date is the town and the DDA, per our agreement with Brinkman, are in the middle of repurchasing that. Once that has been, once we have the title, and you say we're supposed to close on Friday, I would expect that before anybody talks to anybody, the DDA and the town are gonna have to get together again in some form or fashion to determine what they're gonna do with this property that now they've acquired. Does that sound like what the next step would be? Because that's what I'm telling folks is it's premature to have a conversation now. We need to close on the property, get it back before the town and the DDA, and then they need to have a conversation as to how they're gonna proceed, what steps they're gonna take moving forward.
That makes complete sense to me, Christy. If
we can, I think, one step at a time, of course, we've got to close it.
Right.
And then we should huddle with the DDA, and I'll take my direction from whoever as far as that combination goes. But yeah, that it makes sense to at least map out what our expectations are and what our criteria might be for a buyer or a user.
Okay.
Shane has a comment?
So I just wanted to add, I think Ian's correct. Last week, I had a conversation with the listing agent, and I gave the board some written communique about that. I also want to add that Matt and I are having discussions about an IGA. We still need to get an IGA with the DDA that describes this property. So I think that mechanism will give us a chance to both talk about how the town gets repaid for our half of that investment and how we kind of move forward with that property in itself. So I think that is the right logical step, Mayor, and the next thing we're going to do. And so I think if you could tell everybody, instruct them that there's not going to be any way for us to hear any plans or any pitch prior to the town closing. The next step will be the town and DDA sitting down and going through that IGA and next steps. And then I think we'll be in a position to hear proposals following that.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody have any other questions or comments?
I'm seeing none.
Okay, we'll move on to police. Chief Clemick.
Well, Mayor, again, Chief Clemick, Windsor PD. I'll try to keep it short. Staffing, if you count the 2 trainees we have currently in training, we're short 12 people. A majority of those are to anything but COVID. Only about a third of those are related to family members out of COVID. We're working remotely from our records staff. We have 1 person in-house. The other 2 are working remotely from home. We tried to set up a phone system, but it just won't work. So we do have 1 person in-house, and we rotate them once a week. So we're keeping them separate as possible. The CSOs are back at work. We're bringing them back for projects today, and they'll be maintaining their physical distance, and we'll be separating them from offices so that they do have their proper spacing. Other than that, the command team is rotating in the office versus working remotely to hopefully maintain that safe distance for everybody. Everybody's getting a little antsy around here. This backing off on proactive law enforcement is difficult, especially to the troops. They're chomping at the bits to get out and do their jobs. But we are working in zone policing models to keep them separate as possible and maintain some safe distances for them, and monitoring how many officers respond in on calls for service. We are seeing lots of people out and about the last couple of days. The weather, I imagine, is driving that, but there are plenty of people out that probably really shouldn't be out, and but they're out moving around. We do have adequate PPE at this time. We were able to secure enough masks. Commander Lopez worked with Larimer County. We do have a decent sized supply to last us for a while. In conversations with Larimer County, they are not seeing a surge as they had originally anticipated at this point. In fact, hospital beds are, the occupancy is actually down slightly. That could change, however, in the next 2 weeks. So they're continuing to monitor that. We're seeing some issues with mental health holds, and which is not uncommon with this type of crisis. People need extra socialization, and they're kind of struggling with that. Alcohol and drugs aren't helping, but that's where we're dealing with. We are going to be adjusting our training schedules to allow for some training that's needed. We can take our range time and separate people out 4 or 5 at a time so that they can maintain adequate spacing and safeties. So if there's any questions, I'll take those down.
Okay, any questions?
David has a question or comment?
Yeah, hey, Chief, when you started off, you said you were short 12 people. Were you meaning people because some are working remotely, or are you really short 12 staff? If so, who?
We are short 12 staff. So we have basically 10 people that are out for various reasons, whether it's a couple are on FMLA leaves, two people resigned. We're looking to fill the positions, have those people start shortly. So in total, there's 10 people that are unavailable right now at this time. 2 are trainees, which you can't count as a person because they're actually attached to their trainer. So we're down to a total of 12 people.
Critical positions? I mean,
patrol primarily, one CSO, and CET. So one of the things we were doing is we're going to adjust some scheduling with our SROs being out of school now. We're going to shift them into they can assist. One of the SROs will probably go into work in CET to support that unit. They're down to just 2 investigators at this time.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Chief? I just want to verify, because I was on a
Earlier
call
today with our surrounding mayors, and they talked about, they were concerned, at least in some of their communities, about their law enforcement and first responder folks having enough PPE equipment. So you did get enough, you do feel like you have the supplies that you need at this given time?
Yes, Mayor, we have approximately 300 masks that N95 masks that Commander Lopez was able to secure. So we do approximately 10 gowns. We do rely upon the fire department and paramedics for a majority of our medical calls. So we should be adequately supplied in that regard for the near future. Now, if things change drastically as the surge that they're calling for, specifically Weld County, it could change quickly.
And you said that came from Larimer County. Did you receive any help with any items from Weld County?
None yet, but it's all coming from the same source. It's all coming from the national supply. So we are getting some. And I take that back. I misspoke. I said it came from Larimer County. It came from Weld County. I'll confirm that with Commander Lopez, but I believe it did come from Weld County.
Oh, okay. Okay, and do you know if the Windsor Fire
Rescue is in the same situation you are, where they currently have an adequate supply?
I don't want to speak for Chief Kazian, but yes, the last conversation I think I had with him, they were adequately supplied.
For right now, okay, thank you.
Yeah, see anything else? Anybody other have questions or comments?
I am not seeing any.
Okay, Town Manager, Mr. Hale.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Mostly I was down just to receive any questions from the board, but I did want to point out, and I hope you heard from our leadership team that we really are making an effort to, best as possible, have people work from home, telecommute. To the extent we can't do that, we're being really cognizant and cautious, trying to put in appropriate social distancing, 1 person per vehicle policies, whatever we can do, issue PPE to the appropriate personnel, et cetera. So we're doing everything we can to keep our staff safe, because we know those staff go home to families and, really just trying to do our part to flatten the curve, but keep the town of business going forward. So we're trying to find that balance, and we're continuing to work on that. Is this pandemic kind of pushes further and is elongated? We're having a lot of conversations with the leadership team to see if we should adjust the way we're doing business. You make some decisions based on a 2-week, 3-week time frame, and when that stretches out to being a 6-week time frame, we're just trying to go back and take a look and make sure we're making the right decisions for everybody. So that's it, but I'm here to answer any other questions that the board may have.
Are there any questions or comments, just in general? And she's shaking her head, so I'll let you go one by one and
Mr. Soslowski, go ahead.
Oh, I won. Yeah, I guess Shane, when I look at this, it just strikes me when you look at the numbers in Weld County versus Larimer, they're so drastically different. And it's impossible to tell from the Weld County map that they gave us, but do we have active cases in Windsor?
I'm certain that we do, but I haven't heard any specific cases, David. So I would be astonished. Community our size at this point, I would think we absolutely would have active cases, but I haven't seen. Chief, have you got more relevant data?
Yes, we do have a few active cases in the community but I don't think they've been deemed positive through a test. Weld County, talking to Sheriff Reams, has expressed that part of their issues is the lack of physical distancing that's taking place, and it could be part economics and a few other things that's taking place as compared to Larimer County.
Yeah. And
David, I want to add, I think another explanation offered, and I don't know how true this is, but I think just with the demographics, there may be more people that reside in homes in Weld County than in Larimer County. And so that was one of the explanations that was given to me last week of why Weld County's numbers were a lot more drastic than Larimer's, was it just the people per household. So when you multiply that across all the households, we've just had a lot more cases.
I guess if I can, just part two of the question, Shane and Ian had suggested that you might talk more about future legends. Do you want to do that on this call, or is that a separate topic?
That would be separate. I would probably do that through additional correspondence with the board. I don't have any verbal report for the.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Who else?
Anyone else?
I have a question. I know we're not doing any
Water shutoffs right now, but as this progresses, is that deemed to just be the standard protocol as long as we're in the pandemic? And have we thought about what the strategy is going to be in terms of recovery when we come back? What that expectation is? What the request is going to be from the town at that point?
Well, the short answer is that the biggest reason to stop doing shutoffs is because so many of our meters are in houses. We don't have meter boxes. The meters are inside the people's homes, so we're just not sending anybody into an occupied structure. That goes through Safe Built. They're not doing inspections in occupied structures.
And we're not going into people's homes. So as long as we've got the social distancing and other things in place, we won't be doing those shutoffs. But we are still billing people and encouraging them to pay online. And so there's really, the expectation that they pay hasn't gone away. It's just one of the remedies that we've exercised normally, or the threat of that remedy has gone away. So once we're back to business as usual, to the extent that we have people that are behind, they'll get those notices and have the same ultimate, it'll be hanging over their head just like it always has been. So Jess, since this is under your umbrella, do you have anything you want to add?
I would say the same. We would be able to offer maybe some payment plans and work with individuals on a case-by-case basis.
Right, okay.
That is something we do normally anyway.
Okay.
And we just have to see. Our last shut-off list wasn't any bigger or any different than any other average month.
Okay.
So we'll keep an eye on that as well.
Okay. I just want to make sure that, we're in tune to what's kind of going around us too, and that we are, somewhat sympathetic to the situation and if it continues to progress as well, to give those folks some options when we have to come to terms with that.
Absolutely.
So.
And Mary, I just want to add one thing that is just a little bit tangential, but we had an update from Safe Built last week on another matter. And Russ Weber reported that they had done their first kind of video inspection on an occupied structure. So we had a homeowner who had done some work, and right now we're not sending any inspectors in. So I don't know if they filmed it with an iPhone or what they did, but they basically showed them the work, and Safe Built was able to sign off on that based on that video. So again, I guess through kind of necessity breeds innovation, right? So we are seeing the people working their way through this stuff. So not exactly on point with that.
I do think on the bright side, right, I think we are finding some innovative ways to continue to do business. That I think that even after this, that we might continue and think about continuing some of those protocols, because we saw some in planning, some, I guess it expedited the turnaround time from 7 days to 4 days. And so I think, unfortunately, but it is kind of that thing, out of lemons, we are making some lemonade in some places, where I think we will have some new opportunities to perhaps provide services at a better heightened level for our folks as well.
Yep, absolutely.
David, do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, thanks, Jessica. Hey, Shane, and I see Corinne is on the call, but I'm curious, since we're doing so much remote work, how are things in terms of our hardware capability and the necessary, I guess, infrastructure to have so many people are we dialing into servers, and are we technically in pretty good position?
Yeah, Corinne, please.
Corinne, you're
we are able to support remotely for most of the things that we need to do. However, we've had to come in occasionally during the workday for different situations that deal with hardware, where we can't actually do a physical we can't do a reboot sometimes remotely. We have to come in and do that in the office. But for the most part, the team has been able to work from home. So it's working out pretty well.
And the rest of the town staff that are working from home, is this kind of are you suddenly a help desk that's taking calls constantly with helping people connect and work remotely?
Yeah, we made a great decision last year with the support of the town manager and the board to move to a different software platform. So we're actually online with Office. So it's helping our teams tremendously to be able to use that tool in the cloud. So a lot of the staff are using those tools to stay in touch and have distance meetings and doing different things like that. So I think it's helping our teams tremendously to use those tools that the cloud provides to them, and it's allowing them to be able to work.
Right. Thank you, Corinne. And I would just add that we also have an application called VPN. And so anybody's able to remote in and basically work from the server wherever they are. So I think a lot of the leadership team was really familiar with this. We've worked from home for quite a while, but as we've gone out and more people have taken laptops home, I think that it's really been amazing to me how efficiently IT's been able to roll out and how many people are able to work from home. So other than kind of the cell phones, the phone thing, I almost turned out to be more of a backlog for us than laptops. So we do have a lot of people who have laptops as a primary workstation. So we were all able to bring our stuff immediately home. And then I think we have a few laptops that are still on back order, but as you can imagine, Dell has been overrun with people, on the same push. So, and I say everybody on this call, is done great kind of innovating and working through this stuff. And certainly IT's on that list of keeping us going. I think IT and comms are both those, divisions that you don't think about a whole lot until you really need them. And then that's all you think about. And I think they've both done really great work communicating to our public, and, on the back end, IT's done a lot to keep us going.
Yeah, thanks for your update.
Okay. Does anybody have any final questions or comments? She's not seeing anything. So with that, I want to thank everybody for taking
time. For all the department heads who are on the call, thank you for working, your continued hard work and your efforts as we go through this time. And thank you to all the town board members who were on the call this evening as well. And I guess that concludes our town work session for Monday, April the 6th. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night.